So from yesterday, we see the plasma membrane, okay? It has two different types. We read a little bit of information about that in the book, okay? And the idea behind this is there's specific proteins that can be found here in that plasma membrane or cell membrane. So what example did we give yesterday that allows materials into and out of the cell? Okay, so if we said this room was the cell, okay, how do certain materials get in and out in reference to this? You have to have the right what? You have to have the right key. That's correct. So what can determine is the right key turns the gears or the shackles inside the lock that allows materials in and out then. Okay? So proteins work the same way. They have to have the right type of key to go into and out of the cell. All right. Now, one of the things I think I had asked earlier, this is probably maybe the fourth time you've discussed the term cell, and it probably doesn't get any more interesting every time you do bring that topic up. And I would find that hard to argue that, yeah, I would believe that, yeah, you probably do, okay? But I would like to think that we're spending enough time on it to make it worth your time and hopefully not as dry. Maybe yes, maybe no, okay? But regardless, again, just like our policy here with your phones, this is where we're at. So we're going to keep moving forward. Okay, so we know this structure is not always found in the center of the cell, but it's going to direct that cell to what its activities should be. Okay. And to make sense of that with two different types of cells for an example. Okay, so what I want you to think about, as far as blood cells are concerned, I would like to think that you could give me two examples of a blood cell. There's white and red, okay? So, for instance, I should say, unfortunately, some people may have disorder called leukemia. Has anyone ever heard of that? Okay? And some of you may not have only just have more than just heard of that, but know someone who has been diagnosed with leukemia. So if we're talking about leukocytes, or white blood cells, chances are this leukemia then deals with the white blood cells. And do we know what white blood cells do? Yes. So if someone has or been diagnosed with leukemia, they may have a compromised or I don't want to say non-functioning, but not a normal functioning immune system should someone have leukemia. Now, there are different things or different ways to treat that, and one of the more common ones would be this very painful procedure. Does anyone want to take a guess what it has to do with your skeleton? Okay, bone marrow is found inside your skeleton. There's only one way to get that out, to harvest that. They'll actually cut it open, and I believe it's either one of two ways. I don't know if it kind of like we're talking a big needle, sticking that inside and sucking it out, or maybe I believe they might cut the bone open and scoop it out just like ice cream. Okay, so regardless, you're taking that substance then and putting it into the treated patient. And then what that does, just like most cells do, will then hopefully not only just regenerate, but then produce enough white blood cells then so they don't have to, let's say, lead a life in isolation just on account of if your immune system is compromised. You may not be able to lead a normal life like many other people do, just because a cold, a simple virus could be catastrophic for some of these people. Okay, and it's rather unfortunate. So we have erythrocytes and leukocytes, red and white blood cells. How would the function of a red blood cell be different than that of a cardiac muscle cell? What do muscle cells do? They contract, so they need to get shorter. We've already established that white blood cells deal with your immune system, but what do red blood cells possibly do? Do we know? As it's carrying something in circulation, you're right. Yeah, oxygen has to get from point A to point B, and one of an illegal substance called erythro. I can't remember. It's got a specific name. There's a cyclist that lost some of his titles because of this. Lance Armstrong. I want to say something like erythropoietin or something to that effect. What that substance does is I think it boosts the number of red blood cells inside the body. So do you think, is that cheating? I suppose you could say yes for everyone who's abiding by the rules that perform under this constraint with it just a normal fashion. They don't take something to supplement that. So it may seem like, oh, big deal. All it is just making more red blood cells. Well, you're carrying more oxygen. The more oxygen you can carry, you can deliver to your large muscles to continually feed them to be more productive. So it might not seem like it's that big of a deal, but I think it's unfair to those who are abiding by the rules. And I think you would agree, whether it's anything from elementary school, high school, being out in society, you're doing things that you're supposed to be doing. But other people decide not to abide by the rules. Isn't that kind of frustrating? Yes? No? Maybe no opinion? And I think it would be frustrating. Yes. So my point is, you would not want to have, okay, the DNA in that nucleus, okay? It houses the instructions for that structure and function. You do not want to have that same DNA from a red blood cell in that of a muscle cell, because the functions are totally different, okay? So they also will reproduce in a different manner then as well. And we'll get further into that when we talk about cell division. Okay, so mitochondria, okay? As we can see, it transfers energy. We call them the little power factories inside your cells. And it's no stretch of the imagination that some people do not have the same number of mitochondria in each cell than the next person. So would that be illegal, just like this EPO that we talked about with athletes? Is it fair or unfair that some people may have more mitochondria? Is that cheating? The answer is no, because your body's naturally doing that. The more efficient that you get, the more of these you're going to have that have divided inside the cell. I can confidently say it's not that I'm becoming more efficient, but the soreness for you volleyball and football players, is it starting to subside? Or maybe we're just, do what? what cross country, volleyball, football, whichever, is the pain that was present in the first week, is that starting to subside? What's happening is one of two things. And they both go hand in hand. Your body is becoming more efficient. But in order to become more efficient, you have to produce, or these need to divide. And when that happens, okay, you can produce more energy. If you're producing more energy, you're not burning as many waste products. That's why you become more efficient. Okay. In a couple minutes, well, not a couple, in a few minutes, we'll learn about George, not Tom's George, a different guy named George. And sorry, these proteins are not mad, they are made and exported. Okay? I don't know, maybe they're mad. Yeah, talk about that right there. Maybe you don't have anything to write there. Okay, so when we're looking at a structure like this, a little organelle, okay, because that's what we're talking about, these cell organelles, okay, just a tube-like structure that is making these ribosomes, okay, in the endoplasmic reticulum, or rough ER, okay. A muscle cell or a skin cell, which would have more rough ER? In other words, who's going to need more protein? Your skin or your muscle? Muscles, definitely, okay? So you're going to have more and more ribosomes present on the ER in that muscle cell as opposed to your skin cell. Your skin really does not burn that much energy. It's your muscles, and that's why you have to have all this ER and ribosomes that produce these proteins. We'll get that further in depth when we get to protein synthesis, and that's one of the biggest concepts in this semester. For some people, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the school semester, not the school year, but the rest of the semester, okay? And if we find this boring, sorry, we're trying to make the best of it. Okay, so finally, if we have rough ER, we're also going to have this smooth ER, where you're not going to have as many of those ribosomes. That's why it's called smooth instead of rough. We'll just talk about this all the way down to the Golgi apparatus. We will talk about the Golgi tomorrow. Might be saying, well, wait a minute, I thought we were talking about that there would be more ribosomes in that of muscle tissue. Well, yes, that's true, but this is responsible for that contraction. And what this is leading to, what gives you more energy, fats or carbohydrates? Which one? Which would you rather have to burn, fats or carbohydrates? Those get burned first. That's the problem. Because as the human brain is wired, it does not want to let those precious fats go. It's because if times are tough, you can live on those reserves. And there's the most common mammal that goes through that maybe we'll say weighs, we'll say 270 pounds in the summer, but by the late fall is probably up to 550, 600 pounds. The grizzly bear, because what is a behavior of bear? They hibernate. So, as we know, if you're hibernating, you're sleeping, kind of like 8th hour every day. Okay? That was a funny, by the way. Oh, okay. Maybe not. So, what that means is they have those to live on reserves. Now, think about that. In a short amount of time, approximately, I believe that would be accurate, 250 pounds, 600 pounds. What would that do to a human being? That drastic much of a weight gain. It would be tough for that to happen, but if that's the case, bears do it year after year. But that's because they are genetically designed to carry that weight. Their joints, they're designed to be able to support all that weight that gets placed on them. Yeah, it's taxing on their body. No one would argue with that. But that's just a bear doing what a bear does. Okay? Anyway, we will continue with this tomorrow. And now we're going to, like I said, learn about this guy named George. We'll catch up with you next time. We're not done for today, but we're done with this.